house in order. They have a fintech office and what have you, have dealt with them. But now they should embrace what they call regulatory technology, RegTech. These are fintechs, these are techies, very fast-paced people. As a lawyer, I don't want to get an inquiry from my client to go and inquire from Bank of Uganda, and Bank of Uganda takes ages to reply. Yet the client is losing money, the client perhaps there was a breach somewhere, what have you. So regulatory technology should be embraced by the regulator in order to ensure there's efficiency as far as the regulation of the sector is concerned. But also importantly, you introduced me earlier as a trade lawyer. Trade and technology are intertwined. The reason we're talking about fintech is to enable trade. Unfortunately, the statistics in Africa are that 80% of Africa is still informal. Informal trade takes a day. And like Mr. Robert has mentioned, the women take the largest chunk of that. So we already have issues with internet penetration, we already have issues with informal trade. And then you say that these people should become formal and should all of a sudden, their agents should be approved by Bank of Uganda and what have you. But importantly, at the African Continental Free Trade Area, which I've all heard about, is an important initiative that is going on. It's called the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System that has been mooted by Afri-Exim Bank that is working together with the African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat. So I'd encourage the fintechs here to find a way of tapping into it. Fintechs, Paytech particularly, has already been leading the way. The likes of Flutterwave, the likes of Eversend have already been doing cross-border trade, even without the AFCFT as it's called. So tap into that and see how we can bring our informal people into the fintech industry, into the payments industry proper, and we find a way of collaborating so that we can take the industry forward. But importantly, I'd encourage the regulator, Bank of Uganda, to continue consulting. I follow closely what happens in the UK with the Information Commissioner's Office. They send out calls for papers, calls for proposals, calls for consultation. So consultation is key. You don't just consult once and have one meeting in Bastille here and say, now we are ready to pass an act to pass a regulation. Continue consulting, continue studying from the real industry experts. You as a regulator are not the expert. The persons, the players in the market are the experts, so continue consulting and make sure it's robust, comprehensive consultation.
Thank you so much, Ivan. Esther, you're up next.
Okay, I'll pick it up from how Ivan ended his statement that the regulator needs to keep consulting the experts. So in terms of how do we move forward from here, I'm thinking of two things. So I think the regulator should use a lean approach because, as we say, technology is really a fast-growing industry. Sometimes you fail to catch up with it. And now when we are talking about fintechs and we are talking about 3 businesses here, that 4 businesses with you, Cleopatra, that are third-party users. So you see the different business models that are being built from the core fintechs products. So I would really strongly agree with Ivan that they need to use the lean approach, keep consulting the users in the industry, not only the so-called fintechs, but going beyond to businesses that have developed business models on top of their core products. Just a second thing, quickly, I would also say that some of these policies and acts really need to be user-centric, because there's no way you come up with a regulation that is looking at a pyramid of different people and you end up excluding people. Because the main point is not to exclude people like in this case. The point is to protect the consumer. So if you're protecting the consumer and then you're excluding them, it really doesn't make sense at the end of the day. So my second point would be that all these regulations should be very user-centric, understand all the users that the act is going to affect, for example, and let it be tailored to their needs. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Esther. Ronald, you're up next in a minute.
Yeah, let me try. I've been over time for long. So I would say just 2 things. One is I'm concerned about the plight of fintechs in a competitive environment that's not even. So if, for example, which fintech has access to the NIRA database to do KYC validation? Which fintech has integration with telecoms to be able to facilitate the payments, even if they are not in payments industry? For example, the fintech is providing seed loans to farmers, and those loans are repayable over mobile money, which fintech has that interoperability? So I want to say that I'm concerned about how we can make it easier for innovators to be able to access these giant game changer platforms. And while they do that, we are not blind that some of these large players are also innovating maybe even similar products. So how we manage this competitive environment that's not even is of a concern. But now I will end with what Esther touched on, which is, for me, I think we should not ignore that product is king. We like to think that the financial products we are offering to rural areas are in some way superior to what they already have. But I must say we've seen markets like in Bangladesh where, for example, when you introduce mobile money or you introduce a bank account and it has a savings component, and we've seen that the existing practices that farmers have, for example, to store money in form of live animals or with the farm produce, that's more profitable. That over time, they're actually earning more from their investment as opposed to keeping money on an account. So I think the challenge is what Esther has said, which is, what's the efficacy of that product that you're trying to take to rural areas? And don't make the assumption that it's superior to what people are already doing. Most of us in this room have grown up in households where they made very smart financial decisions around investing in education and all that. And so they get it. What's only missing is a user-centered design approach where they are incorporated in the development of these services. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Ronald. I couldn't agree more. The people that are considered to be at the bottom of the chain are actually more informed and more skilled, but when it comes to the technology, they're probably intimidated by the ease of use of some of these platforms that are being developed day in and day out. Nelson, what's your take?
I will be the spoiler. People think that the National Payments Act is about fintechs. It's not. It's about Bank of Uganda's self-preservation. What do I mean? Bank of Uganda, banks do three things. One, quickly accept deposits. Two, transact, meaning move money from here to there. Three, give loans. So as a Bank of Uganda, it's about managing those three things. Well, everybody is here saying that the NPA Act will be dead in 5 years. I don't think so. Because what is essentially happening is, if you read that act carefully, I'm not a lawyer, but I saw the part that tickled me. It has a section which says it will regulate e-payments or electronic payments by private players and itself. So what is it saying? It says that tomorrow or next year or 5 years from now, Bank of Uganda will introduce what they call a central bank digital currency. What is a central bank digital currency? A central bank digital currency is mobile money. A central bank digital currency is PayPal money or e-money. And when it does that, what will the lives of the banks, which have bullion vans, storerooms, you have to take your money to a teller, and all the buildings built around that. So the National Payments Act, in my view, my simplistic view, is the basis upon which Bank of Uganda will preserve itself in 10 years' time, when everyone in the world is using Bitcoin. So what is important is how these laws cater for people who will not be able to use, for example, if you're talking about electronic money, the key issues are, what kind of gadgets do you have? What kind of, what do you use for identification? If somebody doesn't have a phone. In China currently, if you can't pay by something called QQ or Tencent or WeChat, people don't take the renminbi. So all these laws, so much as they look at like they are archaic, there's a method to what we call the madness. And so in my view, we as financial services providers should be finding ways to get in line and be able to innovate so that those people who cannot use e-money or e-platforms at this level can also get to the level where they can use them. So in my view, NPA is just the basis. We shall innovate it, we shall change it, and in future you'll realize that this was the point at which Uganda changed. And how do we ensure that the people who are not educated, people who can't read, the people who can't see, are also able to transact within this economy?
Thank you so much, Nelson. Self-preservation of Bank of Uganda. Guys, you should look into this. Next up, Wendy.
Thanks, Cleopatra. Very interesting submission there, Nelson. I think for me, on a, let's say like a beginning or a smaller scale, I think that the Act has given or is giving us regulatory clarity. Operating in a space where you're not sure if you're doing, are you doing it right? Are you just looking at a few guidelines that you must follow, especially for, partners and private players in the payment system. I think this has given them something to look at, what to do, what is expected of them, what are the consequences, which is a beginning, it's a start. So I like that we have a start, and I just hope that in the future, the central bank can be able to relook into this. As you've seen all the submissions from the different panelists, there are some missing points. The Act does not look at the end user. It's a very thin line on who it affects now, but not, we, the partners, the customer, at the end of the journey. So I hope that from now, after hearing feedback from, the people in the industry consulting, they can start assessing what the changes would have to be. And because the fintech industry moves on very fast, this has to be fast, because then by the time it's changed, something else has changed. We also work towards a common goal. We need to remember that both the central bank and the fintechs, we all want to include the person at the bottom of the pyramid. What are we going to do about this? Are we putting regulations? Is the Bank of Uganda putting regulations that are again stepping in the way of other players to reach that common goal? So there needs to be that assessment. If we're all working towards something, then make it easy for everyone to be able to, for us to be able to achieve the bigger picture here.
Okay. So with that, we've come to the end of the second panel discussion. Thank you so much, our panelists. The session has been very educative, very informative, and it has opened the eyes of many of the audience, many people out there in the audience who didn't know what this Act was all about. And yes, with Nelson stressing over and over again that it's not about the fintechs only, okay? So I hope you guys have learned a lot from this session. We're so grateful to have people once again. Thank you so much, panelists. We can now leave.
Thank you so much, Cleopatra, again. And please do not forget, you can please. And outside is waiting for you for a photo moment as well as interviews. Thank you so much. Again, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. And we still appreciate the media available, that is Met Media. We've got BBS Tedefiner, we have gotten TV around. We appreciate you, and we are live or on BBS Tedefiner AFA. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, and you can still push on the hashtags in case you are on Twitter. That is Level 1 Project. We have got hashtag 40 days, 40 fintechs. Surely there are rewards after, so I do not think you're part for someone who would surely wish to miss out on that. And with no further ado, I'm going to be inviting Nielsen Sangoho, who is a Flutterwave Uganda country manager, to come and highlight for us on the insights on building an African fintech icon or unicorn. Ladies and gentlemen, please a warm welcome to Nielsen Sangoho. Yes, Nielsen, you have 15 minutes or less, surely. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, I need some, I put on my suit for today. I'm not normally in a suit, so I need some encouragement from the audience. I'm tempted to take Nelson's rabbit trail, but I'll desist from going down that road. I've been asked to speak about building a unicorn, and that's the buzzword these days. I know my colleague from SafeBoard and the other innovators, we're hearing so much about the unicorn and everything. But I'll just share some insights into how we did it at Flutterwave and what we're still doing and what caught the attention, of the people who believed in us. And I hope I'll give some value today to someone. Yeah, so I titled this Building an Enterprise Connected Payments Infrastructure for Africa. Why? Because that's the thing. That was a secret pill that got us the attention, Flutterwave we like to say that we're simplifying payments for what we call endless possibilities. The vision was really simple. I know many of the speakers who have come before me have highlighted how impossible it was, to just, make interoperability possible, even in the country. And we thought, if it's that difficult in the countries where we reside, how much more is it in Africa? And the idea is that we want to build one platform that connects businesses all over the world so that, a business today planning to, set up in Uganda, in Kenya, across Africa especially, will not have to worry about the payments. To date, we have processed over $9 billion in transaction value, and we have over 150 currencies supported on our platform. We are today available in over 34 countries and growing, and we provide a service to 300,000 plus businesses. Again, the idea here is, those numbers sound interesting and sound cool, but it's a real problem. It's a big problem. And I think the first takeout, as someone who's building, if it's PesaJet, if it's Easier Greek, whatever you're building, think of the pain point. What is the pain point in what you're doing? And so the key thing, especially in the fintech space, is one is trust. People need to be able to believe in your platform, to put money through your platform. And so the first thing we did was we built for trust. There are standards that are globally acceptable, especially with cards that we've seen for a while now. What we did is we undertook that path, the difficult path of getting certifications, be it PCI DSS, be it partnering with the leaders, Visa, MasterCard. These today have not only partnered with us, but have also invested in us as Flutterwave. The second thing is affordability, and this it's a battle that it's always ongoing. Today we've already had our fair share of the affordability complaints, but when it came to moving money across borders, it was almost impossible. Today, I think one of our biggest value propositions is our settlements infrastructure. In every country where we go today, we not only get the license, but we get banking partners. And what that allows us to do is to be able to settle in all the countries I've mentioned. There are 34 countries. We can settle money. We can move money in and out of the ecosystem. And of course, the third thing is accessibility. People, any business in the world doesn't want to do multiple integrations on payments. I think the first hindrance is the pain it takes for someone as a business owner to do one integration into one rail. Say, for example, MTN, mobile money. The expertise is not there today. Being out in the marketplace, being out with a customer who wants to use the platform that we're building. And for us, it's businesses. So we're always asking, what do you want to see? What more can we build? What can we build for you that you can't build with your own expertise? And it has given us an edge in terms of, being a very fast adopted platform. And of course, the fifth thing there is integrations, seamless integrations. One of the things we realized early as we were building was that Uber came to us. And their pain point as well was, as a business coming into the African market, they didn't want to come and integrate with every provider because, again, the African ecosystem is very fragmented. Every country has something familiar that people pay with. And so one of the things that we had to do is figure out what can we provide today, of course for the local business, because that's where our heart is, but for the international businesses coming into the continent. And today, we process payments for a couple of them, including Microsoft, Uber, Netflix, Booking.com. And it's because we thought and said, look, we must go into that path that no one wants to go on. The hard path of fighting with regulators, of doing all the technical integrations, and eventually connect the continent as one platform. And so what do you have to think of? Because we can't do this alone. Even with all the work we've done, we still need people. Many of them who are in this room. We still need, partners. Many of them who, are multinationals, banks. We don't believe that we can come and completely cut out everyone. What we're building is a synergy. We're building a connecting system. So the first thing you have to think of as a person who, again, dares to dream to build that next billion-dollar company is you can't do it alone. You must accept this. I think that's the first thing you must realize. And I know, the guys who went before us, even in this market, if it's Pegasus, if it's Yo Uganda, they have really set that example that we can't do this alone. And for me, I'm blessed that at the time where we live now, there's more acceptance, because when I see things like NCBA working with MTN, it gives me much joy and much hope in the fact that we're now opening up our minds to think, that banks don't have to kill fintechs, because the things that fintechs are able to do today at an accelerated level, they potentially may not be able to happen inside the bank infrastructure. And, I know we are having so many discussions with almost all the banks here in terms of what can we do together to help build this ecosystem. And you must think like that. As an innovator building a fintech, who can you work with today? And by solving either their problem or a problem together, it will give you mileage, leaps and bounds. Second thing is customers. And the customers are really interesting because the customers, in Steve Jobs' words, almost don't know what they want because they are only seeing what has existed. And I remember a time when, in the early days of, for example, Safe Border, I was sitting in Outbox, just listen to this concept. And the initial feeling in that room was, who would be willing today to take that extra step to pay for a border on the phone when they can just run down and pick the border? And that just makes you think of the customer. You have to think there's the problem that the customer knows, but there's a problem that the customer doesn't know. So as an innovator, the challenge is upon you to think, how can you, beyond what already exists today, how can you see what's going to happen? How can you see that a phone today, won't need any buttons, yet a keyboard is sort of the standard practice? We have to be able to think like that. And what we thought of today was, why would I, as Neil, what would it take for me to make a payment to M-Pesa today instantly? And that was the thing which we asked ourselves every single day. How can I collect money today in Nigeria as a person who's teaching an online course about arts and crafts? Today, we are able to power a couple of merchants who, in the pandemic, their businesses, they closed completely. But because of what we provide, they were able to tap into markets out of Uganda. And, we have a lady who, today, she trains arts and crafts, making of sandals. And the biggest consumer of her course on our platform, they're from Lagos. And we pay her on mobile money today. And again, that drives into my third point, innovation. At the heart of what we do, I've seen a lot of culture, and I'm Ugandan, so I speak of what I know. There's a lot of replication. There's a lot of copying. We're not solving problems. We are adapting ideas, which is a good thing because, it's a good way to learn. But beyond that, we must begin to build stuff that is relevant to our market. How can we today create stuff? In the pandemic, right dead middle of the pandemic, we thought and said, look, our typical customer who's Ugandan, they have a website. They have no website. They have been selling online and pushing ads on social media and being able to, use a payment link that we provide maybe to get paid. And we thought, how can we then drive them online? And we began a conversation around, why don't we build a platform that's like Shopify, but localized to Uganda or to Africa, if I may say that. And we built out a platform called Flywave Stores because our engineers were also in the pandemic at home. And this platform allows you today as a small business to come on board and upload products, pictures, and prices. You have a store, a template of a store. And again, thinking, our customers today, our merchants today, we have partners who are into logistics. How can we build that ecosystem where you have that platform free of charge, and then you can plug into a partner like Safe Border or Pink Tie, these are our customers. How can we plug that ecosystem and build out that platform to create the next thing that hasn't been seen? Today in Uganda, we have 1,300 stores on that platform. And it's things like this that go beyond. We must go beyond just providing that API. Because I can tell you, in 10 people on the street, maybe 2 of them will know what an API is. So we must build out those platforms that are easily adoptable. And so as we do these things, of course, you must know the local market. You must, again, think beyond where you are today. When you think of Uganda today, don't think of the 4 million people who are online today. Your goal should be, how do I get the rest of the 36 to go online? That's the way we solve. If there are no problems in our ecosystem, there will be no solutions. And so the future is this. Today, we're in a global village. Today, you're able today, as a Ugandan, online. I believe this with all my heart. The next millionaires in dollars we're creating out of Uganda will come to the innovation space. And that is online, specifically. Through e-commerce, maybe, but they're going to be online. They're going to be paid online because they're going to sell beyond the borders of Uganda. The world on Flutterwave. How can you today ride on a platform like Flutterwave to scale your business? Today, we have helped close to 25 businesses out of Uganda to go into a market seamlessly without worrying about how they're going to get paid. How can you build your business thinking, how do I get such partners to take me beyond, the borders of Uganda? In March, the same time we closed our Series C raise, we had a partnership with PayPal that opens every business here to 377 million users. Today you can potentially sell on your platform, get paid via PayPal through Flutterwave. How can you harness and take opportunity of such things that will change your business forever? Because imagine this is, if you're going to think of only Uganda, you can never hit this number of users. Even if 10% only of these users, maybe even 1% bought on your platform, that's almost equal to everyone who's online in Uganda. And so, I want to just urge all of us, as I close, right? How are we thinking about the things that are not being done in this market? We are many people in this room doing amazing things, almost in silos. The conversations are there, and I'm part of some of them, but they're not yet at the level where we go beyond what's possible today. How do we think and how do we guide the rest of the world? Because M-Pesa, MTN mobile money, these are things that have not been done before in the world. How do we then create the next big thing? Because the payments infrastructure is just the start of what's possible in the ecosystem. I thank you, and I wish you a lovely day.
Thank you very much for that. Please, let's add him another round of applause. All right, okay, we just have one more panel to actually come to our conclusion, but of course, the exhibitions are still going on. You will have also an opportunity one more time to go through the different tables and then check out what they actually have for you. But I want to go real fast and, of course, read for you all the exhibitors and the companies that have been part of these 40 days, 40 fintechs. But, of course, I want to give away some rice from Green Shares. And of course, this rice is proudly sponsored by the Lord Mayor, Innocent. So who deserves this? I have 2 of these. And I also have shea butter. Who deserves? I want to award someone who deserves it. Eh? Okay, thank you very much. Please come and pick it. Just come and pick it. Please, let's clap for her. She deserves it. Another one? And how will you cook it, my brother? I don't see a ring on you. You're going to suffer with these things. The line of gentlemen here. Now, you give this gentleman here in white. That one there, yes. So now that shea butter, the other lady right there. Please, let's clap for them. Thank you very much, Innocent Kawoya, for that. And of course, Green Shares, thank you very much for the innovations. Anyways, I want to read real quick the companies that are part of us today. We have Malan Company Limited, Sente, we have Paybu Limited, Bionic, we have T-Tech, Computing Palace Technologies, Trade Lance Limited, Flutterwave Inc., Jumia Uganda, Payclyde, we have Ugamat Limited, Everland Agritech Limited, Enabling Finance Limited, Safe Border, Jumo World Uganda. We have also Paytota. We have Green Shares Limited for, of course, the beautiful rice as well. And also we have Bullet Day Financial Services. We have merchandiseuganda.com. We have Alptech ICT Solutions. We have Kuzimba Services. We have Kanzu Code Limited. We have PesaJet. We have Ratio Data Center. We have Chap Africa. We have Enimiro Online. We have YTIB Capital Limited. We have Kai Saber Jesus Technologies. We have Club Tangaza. We have Insure Small. We have Pegasus Technologies Limited. We have Zuldaim. We have Numida Technologies, Yo Uganda Limited, SoftPay, MTN Mobile Money Uganda, Silicon Savannah Limited, CardPesa, Easier Greek. We have Airtel Money. We have FutureLink Technologies and NCBA Bank Uganda Limited. Ladies and gentlemen, for our next panel, Mr. Nicholas.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes, good afternoon once again. This is our third and actually the last panel. It will be focused on readiness for CBDs. CBDs can be called central bank digital currencies. What is the first way to achieve a cash-led and later a cashless economy? To join me on this panel, we have Vincent Tumwijuke, the CEO of FutureLink Technologies. You're welcome, sir. We also have Primera Muthoni, who's an ICT product development specialist. You can call her expert. You're welcome, Prim, on the panel. We have Mr. Anthony Indegwa, who's the CEO of NCBA Bank. We also have Mr. Tim Jimson, who's the Vice President of Payments and Financial Services at Safe Border, Africa. And lastly, we have Damali Sali, who's the author of a publicized book and a very important entrepreneurial book called Ideation Corner. Thank you very much. Without wasting a lot of time, we shall start with my panel introducing what they do and who they are. Because we are constrained by time, we have about 35-40 minutes. I'll give each one of you 30 seconds to give a pitch about yourself and about what you do. A pitch that is at a UN conference. So do your best in 30 seconds. We start with Tim.
Thank you very much. So my name's Tim Jameson. I'm the VP of Finance, Financial Services and Payments at Safe Border. In a nutshell, I look after everything that's not on a border at Safe Border. So I'm responsible for building our fintech platform, payments ecosystem, our relationship with our vendors, and ensuring that as we continue to grow our customer base, we're offering them more interesting, more impactful, and more valuable services through our super app.
Thank you. Anthony?
Good afternoon.
Yes.
Thank you, Nicholas. My name is Anthony Ndegwa. I am the Managing Director of NCBA Bank Uganda Limited. NCBA Bank Uganda Limited is a bank that is a Ugandan bank. It was formed about 18 months ago after a merger of two Ugandan banks. This is the first successful merger in Uganda. The first bank that we merged with was NC Bank Uganda Limited and Commercial Bank of Africa Uganda Limited. These two organizations had been in business in Uganda for more than 5 years. So again, we borrow into their heritage. As a bank, we offer the full spectrum of banking solutions in Uganda. We actually have a traditional bank which offers the usual corporate banking, retail banking solutions, private banking, trade and treasury solutions, and all our products are actually offered on our online and our mobile banking solutions. Beyond that, we are also an innovator. We are actually in partnership with MTN, and we continue to provide the MoCash solution, which currently has 9.7 million Uganda customers. Now, this success is on the back of our regional head office, where we also have similar products in Kenya, in Tanzania, in Rwanda, and also in Ivory Coast. So the latest one is in Ivory Coast. So again, similar solution like MoCash, and MoCash is a very simple solution. We're offering our customers, MTN customers, an ability to save money or borrow money on their phone.
Thank you very much. Yes, Vincent, tell us.
Yes, Future-Link Technologies is a banking-as-a-service fintech that leverages the relevance of and outreach of circles and microfinance institutions in Eastern Africa to promote and enhance the financial resilience of low and medium income earners using digital channels. So we enable these same subscribers to grow personal savings, access affordable credit provided by the different partner circles, and make payments.
Thank you. Prim.
Good afternoon. Thank you to the High People team for organizing this. My name is Primera Modoni, and I'm a product development specialist. That means I support the design of products so that they are very customer-centric. Do a lot of research to be able to make sure that the products that come to you, whether on USSD or on app, on web, are done very well, and they can attract the uptake, and you can get the customers you're actually looking for. Thank you.
Right. Damali Sali.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Damali Sali, and I am the founder and the author of the Ideation Corner. The Ideation Corner is a company that showcases innovators like yourself to tell your story, because no one seems to be doing that, but from the African context. I do not want to see you on BBC First or BBC Africa First or CNN First. I feel like I should be telling your story first, because I'll tell it from our context, and it will be to inspire others, other Africans, other Ugandans to actually do the same. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now that we know we have 5 CEOs in front here, let us now dive deep into real business. I'll start off with you, Damali. Why do people like cash a lot? Why is it that everyone wants to have their money at their homes? I mean, when I say everyone, I mean most of us. Statistics show that 80% of business in Uganda is cash. Will tell you about 90 is cash. It's already there, it's cashless. So we want to know, why is it that people like cash, not e-money?
Great. I think it starts off with general human nature. Generally, as people, we like something we can see, something we can touch. We trust that more than something that is arbitrary or virtual. So I think it starts off with human nature. But the other thing is, I feel that we need to do more of is also to get people to trust e-money, to trust virtual money. And the way we get to do that is to make sure that the systems we develop are inclusive. So if you develop a system that someone can't necessarily access if they don't have a smartphone, then that's a system that they will never trust because they don't have access to it. So we need to make sure that the systems we develop are accessible and they are easy to use and they are inclusive so that people can then trust to use the virtual money. And then I think the other thing which was touched by the other panel is it's expensive. If only 20% of the people in the Ugandan economy are using e-cash, then it means the other 80% that I may have to interact with need cash. So what's the point of me having electronic cash if I can't transact with 80% of the people I'm going to interact with? So in a way, we need to work on making sure that the vast majority of people are using electronic money to be able to do it. In a way, it's a chicken and egg. How do you get them then to get to electronic money?
Thank you. Vincent, I know you have been dealing with SACCOs for about 2 decades, 17 years to be specific, in the villages down there. Why do you think people are strong with having their money under their mattresses, not on their phones?
I think that you'd look at, in my opinion, 2 drivers. One is that that's what they have. We are coming from a background where it has been dominated by cash. And so it's still a transition. But when you look at the lives of the people, congregation is a sort of social capital to these people. So much so that even when you present an alternative to do mobile transactions, if you take away congregation, you are taking away their social capital because they want to get together. You are talking about people coming together in a group on a particular banking day to just do transactions. So it's a social capital. But lastly, generally, beyond even the rural population, our supply chains are still really underdeveloped. And as long as people still have to walk to the market to buy, they will most likely go with cash. And so I think that the conversation has to look into the digitization of the livelihood of the people so that then people can feel that they can be served remotely. That way, you will keep them in their homes.
Okay. Thank you, Vincent. Yes, Tim, I know for sure you have a huge number of riders. And in all our engagements, I'm a fan of borders. Whenever you make a safe border order, the guy on the other side will call you and ask you, is it cash or cashless? Whenever you say it is cash, they will say, cancel the trip. So Tim, please tell us, why should your riders go cashless? Why must they not have their money in their hands?
I mean, I think it goes really to the heart of the problem. I think this issue that we've had, so particularly post-pandemic, of our drivers strongly preferring cash, I think is just a microcosm for consumers everywhere, which is like, what is the value proposition of cashless over cash? If we, from a security perspective, if we have more trust in cash because of historical context, what is the value proposition for going cashless? And so I think where we've seen adoption in other economies and where we've seen a shift to digitization of currency is because there is a value proposition. And so, like, I work in a consumer brand, so for us it's about how do we reward a consumer for changing their fundamental behavior. And I think this will, there's going to be kind of large sort of demographic and geographical reasons. Like, I think the work that we do trying to encourage our drivers to take cashless trips and for our consumers to use the Safe Boda wallet is very different to conversations, outside kind of central Kampala. And I think, all of these sort of come together really into the same question, which is like, what is the value proposition of cashless at the moment? And so that, that's sort of, my role and other leaders in the fintech, sphere's role is, how do we reward a consumer for changing their fundamental behavior?
Thank you, Tim. Now that we know there is a historical perspective to cash, there are issues about the propositions. Prim, there you are a developer. When you are developing these products that are making us leave our money and entrust it to your systems, what do you look at that will push me from giving you the cash? What proposition do you put in place for people to drop cash and go cashless?
Thank you so much.
The speaker?
Thank you so much for the question, and I would like to agree with him. Usually it's about the proposition first. Even before we start developing the product, is what are we giving the customer to begin with? And are there good incentives for them to be able to take up the product? Then if there are good incentives, first we start with that conceptualization. For example, let me talk about something maybe like more cash. Is the value proposition, is it a good proposition? Does it fit the customer segment? Have we done enough research to understand if how big that market segment is? We have agreed the market segment is big enough. We have agreed we have the customers to begin with, and then now we can go back now to the design of the solution and being able to design it before even we send it to the developers. The idea of safe border, there's someone who started with it and said, how did you know that you would actually, how did they come up with the idea and say, you know what, as much as there's a border downstairs, what interest do I have to be able to order for it on a mobile phone? And me as a person, before then, I actually barely used borders until Safe Border showed up, and I'm thinking, okay, now that I can order border, it builds confidence on my side. Okay, if I can order border for someone who is already registered, someone knows, then I'm more interested in actually taking on such a product. So usually it begins with research. Do we know the customer segment? Do we understand the problem very well? And are there going to be people to take up the product? Is the market large enough? Then we start developing.
Sure, thank you. Anthony, from a bank perspective, I know for sure NCBA, for the record, is the biggest bank in Uganda in terms of account holders. 9.7 million read on more cash. That makes them the biggest bank, and the next one doesn't have half that number. But I also know for the fact that even from those very many customers, majority of them are borrowing and taking cash. A small number of them is actually saving. So again, still, even when they are doing more cash, which is digital, they later convert to cash. From a bank perspective, why do you always want to withdraw our money? Why do you think we always want to withdraw our money?
Thank you, Nicholas, for that question. I think it's what we know. And I like the presenter who came before, Flutterwave, he says, we know what we know. And I think as developers, as integrators, as bankers, I think we need to take our customers to the next level. What's the next level? Can we look at solving the next problem? And I think that's our main objective. But I think there is a huge reliance on cash in this particular market. In other words, it's about acceptability. So when I get my more cash loan today, because more cash loan, you get it on your phone, all right? We should be able then to have an infrastructure that allows our customers, either through knowledge, products offering, acceptability by other vendors and merchants, so that this client doesn't need then to withdraw it into cash, and then they can actually spend it. So I think the first thing is we have a journey around financial literacy and customer knowledge. I think the second journey I'm looking at is building bank and digital infrastructure to allow this journey to happen. All right? We also need, as merchants, to publicize the safety. Odoni put it well, the safety of our products. Because there's a whole customer base out there looking for safety. All right? I think the other point is around cybersecurity. So when the guy gets a more cash loan, he says, you know what, I want it in cash. I don't believe it's money until I see it. You remember recently, the government actually issued out money to the vulnerable population. Now, do you know what happened? That money came through the digital platforms. I think majority of that was actually withdrawn immediately, all right? But if we are trying to grow our, I would say, e-commerce, I think we should try and encourage our customers to be able to not withdraw, but however, use it. Again, I think there are a lot of challenges across the country around accessibility, agents, points of sale. I think there's a lot of conversation around that. But I think just to close, I would say, I think we are holding on to what we know. We're holding on to the fact that when I have a heap of cash next to me, I'm okay. As opposed to, I can actually put it in the more cash account. More cash also allows you to save. More cash today allows you to save. So you can actually get your loan, put it on the saving side, and then use it as and when you need it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nicholas.
Makes sense. Now that we know the issues around we are wanting our cash versus having e-money, we know for the fact internationally, Western countries have moved this journey and adopted cashless solutions. Damon, I want to hear from you. Picking global examples, how do you think Western countries were able to drop cash and went cashless? What exactly did they do?
I think
They made the process accessible to all. So they made it very cheap for you to be, well, virtually costless for you to use e-money, for you to go digital. And in so doing, they worked with the private players to make sure that the solutions that they develop, in some way they incentivize to ensure that people will be able to use them at a little or no cost. That was key. But then also, there was a lot of internet penetration, and so it was easy for people to then access these systems, if it was in fact systems. So that also enabled that. The other thing that I feel also we need to do is to see that government is the largest consumer, by the way, of goods and services in any country. So when a government does in fact adopt its consumption to digital only, everyone in a way will be forced to actually go digital. So the governments also had that push, and they made sure that in their consumption of goods and services, they were all electronic and they weren't accepting cash in any way. And that organically actually pushed digital payments and digital transactions in an economy.
Sure, thank you. I say everything rotates around things that need to be done. Now I want to know whether these things are being done. I'm beginning with Tim, from your organization. Are you putting in place the right propositions to make sure that people drop cash? I want clear examples of why your rider must allow cashless, not receive his 5K in his hands.
I think there's maybe just a more interesting place to start, which is, do we really think that mobile money is cashless? I mean, for every shilling that's spent on mobile money, it's been, on the whole, deposited as cash with an agent. So I think when we think of the ecosystem here versus the West, it's very different. They didn't start from a place where you had wide-scale adoption of mobile money. There was, the banks remained the dominant player and fintech slotted in. And so I think for Uganda and lots of Africa, it's a slightly different challenge, which is, for the consumer, do they have kind of use cases to spend kind of cashless on when they've got it? And for us, that's how we're building our ecosystem. We're building an app that's based on cashless. For merchants, particularly around Kampala, do they accept easily kind of cashless? And third, and I think a fantastic point about the government, what regulation or what steer and what example is being set by government to try and force this change from kind of cash to cash-light or to cashless? So I think in kind of all the fintechs we've heard from, from Flutterwave right the way down to the smallest, everyone's looking at the same issues, which is, how do we transfer cash in a better way? Is it more secure? What's the use case? But for us, it's different to the more developed economies, because we're not, mobile money is not cashless. It still exists.
Maybe Tim, just to interject, I need a few examples of how Safe Border is giving people value to drop cash and go cashless. Why a vendor who's on your e-commerce platform should actually accept e-money, not receive her money in cash?
Yeah, so I think it's about use cases. So my job and what we're trying to build over the next 12 months is, as we gain our MPS license from the Bank of Uganda, hopefully very shortly, we are going to be opening up a further cashless ecosystem, both in the forms of working capital loans with our partner Namida, obviously all of the usual use cases around bill with payments, savings, products, agents, through the app, to try and give customers a very convenient, central app that they can do everything on. From ordering a ride to work in the morning, to ordering food from the market, to buying airtime, to paying your bills, savings products, all of that will be offered through one single app. And so our proposition is around convenience, and also then how we motivate people through value proposition, so rewards for using our products.
Thank you. If I got you well, I think you are saying Safe Border is expanding its proposition from just a rider to e-commerce, to loans, to saving, among others, so that your people gain value from being on the app. Thank you. Vincent, in your organization, what exactly are you doing? I know you have over 300 circles you are supporting. You are serving more than 1 million people, and I'm being very conservative. The numbers are much higher. What exactly are you doing to ensure that people have trust in e-money, not cash?
Thank you for that question. I think that the most responsive effort would be to look at the entire ecosystem and rather than just one node of the ecosystem. So our approach is that we de-risk the institution itself first and foremost. We de-risk the institution as a motivation for them to actually digitize. And so on our banking as a service platform, we have been able to reduce the cost of infrastructure, the monthly infrastructure, from about $200 to around $18 per month. That is a motivation for the institution to accept digital channels. On this other side, for the consumer, they are interested not just in convenience, because convenience, but expensive convenience is still a luxury for the ordinary people we serve, because no one has ever told them what their hour is worth. So we move ahead to discuss with our partner circles to offer digital financial services that are affordable. So with the de-risked environment, you are able to have financial service providers offer credit, cheaper credit, to a de-risked customer. So we are saying this customer has been paying digitally. You have all the records. Why do you still have to offer them credit so expensively? So the end consumer comes because there is affordable credit. The institution accepts digital payments because they are de-risked and they save on the infrastructure. But more importantly, I think that the discussion needs to go further than just looking at money, but go further to look at how the money is made. When I drive past Kalewe and you meet this young man holding 6 pineapples, and they are selling the 6 pineapples at 10,000, it just speaks volumes at how much we still have to do. Because if we have digital channels, if we are talking about fintechs getting any credit, if we have to claim any credit, we must begin from there so that we de-risk the end consumer, enhance the financial resilience of the end consumer. Then they will be willing, first of all, to pay cashless, and the one they pay will be able to accept the digital payment.
Thank you. I hear you. Now let's talk regulation. Of course, we know the fintech industry has a new regulation in place, among other things. Prim, I want to know from you, is there enough regulation to help people transit to cashless? And does this regulation protect me if I go cashless? Because if I put money on your platform, I'm translating to cashless. But what if my money disappears? Who's there for me?
Thank you so much. I am not quite sure I can answer that question exhaustively, but I'll do my very best. It should have gone to the other team with the lawyer. And so I'm going to say that right now we are what we call trying to define as we go. When we started with mobile money, when we started with a couple of years back, we didn't even think that we could go in the era of digital currencies. The first response from the government was, what's that? And we have reached a point where countries in Africa are actually doing research and are willing actually to go ahead and create such currencies. So let's say we are doing it when we get there, to get that point. So if we see a new issue, let's say maybe something like cybersecurity, we don't even have enough people in this country to support the fintechs that we have on cybersecurity. We have to look outward to be able to get that support. When you look at regulation, we have to, I sit a lot with lawyers today to help them understand the telco ecosystem. Because even them, as they try to do regulation, they need to understand it very well. So Engineer Primera has to sit with a lawyer who has no idea about our ecosystem and have to teach them from scratch how the money is moving, what kind of records we are keeping on the network, how do they look like, what is the implication. So if we are going to be able to get the regulation there, but it's going to take time because the e-payments are creating a level of transparency we have not seen before in the payments ecosystem. So it requires a lot of partnerships for all of us to be able to be transparent, to be able to see, by the way, when money moves from here to there, that's how it looks like. From the bank to an e-wallet to converting it to a cryptocurrency, this is how it all looks like. Then together with the very amazing lawyers in this country that have taken interest, we can be able to build regulation and the government. But it has to be one area at a time and in a very collective kind of way, because it's not all the people, all the players do not know the implications end to end. I cannot even be able to explain in 5 years where we should be or we can be in terms of regulation. So 1 year at a time, and we see what all the players require and what helps, and also in creating that regulation, we are not undermining some of the fintech, some of the startups. They also have a way to thrive. We're not only looking at the big players in the system, but we are going to cut across everybody and be very, what the word is, kind in terms of regulation. Yeah.
Thank you, Prim. Yes, you have actually competently answered the question.
Thank you.
You are underestimating yourself. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anthony, please tell me, there is a part of the question that Prim didn't answer. Let us assume we are pushing for cashless and people are depositing money in NCBA. There are scenarios of I deposited money and later I didn't find my money. Next time I will not deposit money. So what I'm asking is very simple. Is the regulation that is already in place strong enough to push for cashless? And also, does that same regulation safeguard me who's going cashless? Because it might only be safeguarding the bank. And I will not put my money anyway if it is safeguarding the bank.
Thank you very much, Nicholas, for that question. Now, I think the beauty for us at NCBA Bank Uganda Limited is that we are actually regulated by the Bank of Uganda, and all the deposits that we hold are also, they are also secured by the Deposit Protection Fund. So I think that's a first step. It means that when you bring your money to our bank, there is recourse on us. We have a responsibility as a bank to ensure that we protect the consumer. So the consumer is protected. And I think that's the beauty of dealing with an institution like ourselves, NCBA. So when you look at our customer base, the more cash customers, when they save money, all right, let's even deal with the customer, the agriculture, the farmer upcountry who is actually saving their hard-earned money. This money is protected. And I think that's what we need to continuously educate and remind our customers, that the money is regulated, it's protected. We are a regulated institution. It means that from a regulation perspective today, as a bank, I'm fully regulated. I think we then need to go beyond that and say, now, beyond the banks, what's the regulation? All right? And I think that's I would say, the broader conversation here. But I think today, what we are seeing in the country is that if you are a fintech like NCBA, who is then pushing out a product like MoCash, which allows our customers to borrow and also to save, and we are regulated, I think for me, the law is actually protecting the consumer, and it is pushing us towards inclusivity, financial inclusion, innovation, and the BOU, and actually I can actually confirm that Bank of Uganda is particularly concerned and particularly following through on our innovations. Thank you.
Thank you. As we wind up, I want to pick your minds on something called CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. And I think someone mentioned it as a way of pushing for cashless. In your opinion, each one of you, do you think CBDs, central bank digital currencies, will be the faster route to achieving a cashless economy, or we shall go faster without even CBDs? I'll start with Tim.
I think in terms of speed, it's hard to say. I think a lot of what they try to achieve, which is around consumer protection, given they're on blockchain, government control of money supply, financial inclusion, because you don't require a bank account to send money between two people or mobile money account. Yeah, I think a lot of the intentions behind them are really noble, and when we think of the reasons that we want economies to be cashless, I think they solve a lot of the problems. I think sitting here in 2021, we haven't seen a single example of the government launch one yet, and I'm always quite sceptical of government's ability to deliver mass tech scale innovation, which is, as we've seen from forever, that is normally driven by the private sector. I think the intentions are noble, and as a consumer, there's lots of reasons to be super excited about them. I think it's very unlikely that they will be, in my opinion, they will be the forefront of cashless economies really anywhere, and probably definitely not in Africa.
Thank you. Vincent. CBDCs.
Yeah, so I think that there is sufficient evidence that we are gaining ground in terms of even the advent of COVID to drive this particular effort of the central bank digital currencies. And the central banks in Africa have also interest in actually promoting this because of the advent of digital currencies, other digital currencies, which of course present regulatory challenges for them. So it's in their interest to push the CBDCs, and as a policy, if you also look at the challenges of the digital currencies compared to the CBDCs, these central bank digital currencies are backed up by monetary policies which offer some bit of relative stability as compared to the other ones. So I think that we're going to see more advance, and with the supportive regulatory framework to advance the fintech industry, if we have more automated supply chains, if we have more automated agricultural value chains where the people are, we should be able to see quite a phenomenal change, very soon. Thank you.
Let me hear from Anthony. I'll come back after.
Yes. Thank you, Nicholas. Now, central bank CBDCs are simply electronic money. It's just electronic money. Today, what the Bank of Uganda does is it issues physical money. So CBDCs is just the same money, but in an electronic form. That's what it is. Very simple. Now, it's a fantastic initiative because you are now digitizing the whole value chain and the currency. Of course, for this to succeed, you need to have usability. So, for example, the central banks issue the digital money. I need to think about my farmer. You talked about the gentleman selling pineapples. That gentleman selling pineapples for 10,000 shillings, can he receive it? It's the same thing, because look at the transaction. Look at the transaction with pineapples. The guy has his pineapples. Say, well, yeah, you agree, 10,000. He actually goes around your car. He arranges it properly, and you give him the money. Why can't we digitize that? You know what I mean? And really, that's what we're saying, is that we then have this universal currency that's available for all, not just to receive, but also to pay. And then it goes back to the other question, Nicholas, you talked about. When they receive this digital currency, will they encash it, or will they continue with the transaction? And I think that's the conversation around moving into cashless. So cashless should allow us to have an environment where you have end-to-end usability, end-to-end acceptability, end-to-end, can I say, points where customers can be able to use the digital money. All right, so I would recommend, I think this is a significant move for central banks. I don't think any central bank has actually, I'm not sure about that, but I think it's a significant move. And all it just is doing is just digitizing the physical cash, what we know as physical cash today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are CBDCs the fastest route to going cashless? Because they will come from government.
With Damali, what she said earlier, that the government is one of the biggest factor that is going to really be at the forefront of moving to cashlight and cashless. So there is enough research done, there is enough motivation for government to be able to go the digital currency route. So it will actually affect a lot. As she said, that they're also the biggest consumers. They're the biggest in terms of procurement systems, in terms of consumption, dispersing money like we saw recently. They have to use digital means. Now, in our country, they had to depend on the telcos to be able to disperse. What if themselves they had the capability to do it? First of all, it builds a lot of trust. So as a telco, as a small company trying to build digital products, and you find that the government is also building digital products, it creates a lot of safe space. Okay, now we can actually do this. We can actually go into digital money. I can be able to trust the person in the camp selling 2 pineapples to be able to pay me and to be able to make the right payments. That's one of them. But there's also a lot of risk in terms of cybersecurity, a lot of research that needs to go into it. And then also, apart from that, there is also a lot of risk in terms of all the other players. Okay, so I'm a small fintech, I'm a bank. What does that exactly mean to the banks if I am also creating my own currency? Because basically you're cutting out the banks. What is it going to be in them forms? Again, we go back to the frameworks and to the regulation. How are we going to be able to regulate so that all the players in the system are also benefiting in terms of it? Kenya is in research status. Nigeria and South Africa are already in development of some sort in terms of this area. At least those 3 countries in Africa are trying to do something. China, we've seen Sweden, the Philippines, all those countries are in way higher in terms of research and development and trying to test it out. But there's still a lot in terms of the regulatory frameworks, like here in Uganda, in Africa, in terms of making sure that everybody in the ecosystem benefits.
Thank you, Prem. Now, as we conclude this panel, I'm going to request Damali Sali not to repeat what you have said, but to help me summarize what exactly this panel discussion has been about in a language that majority of us understand. I'm giving her 2 minutes to summarize this panel in Luganda. I believe she's the most competent up here to summarize the panel in Luganda for our viewers across the country. Because the session is live on BBS, which is available on all PTV platforms in Uganda and in some parts of Africa, so it is being viewed everywhere. In 2 minutes, Damali, what have you people been talking about? And how does it help an informed person in my village in Nyendo Masaka?
Basebo ne banyabo, tubadde tuteesa ku ngeri gye tusobola okulaba nti abantu abasinga batandika okwettanira ssente ze bayita eza digital, katugambe mobile money, ne balekerawo okukozesa ssente ez'olupapula. Bingi nnyo bye tuteesezaako ku lwaki abantu balina okuva ku ssente ez'olupapula ne badda ku za digital. Ebimu ku byo kwe kuba nti no ssente ez'olupapula omuntu asobola ozikubbako, esente ez'olupapula oba olina muwala wo e Masaka ng'oli Kampala n'alwala, tosobola muweereza ssente za lupapula, olina muweereza ssente za mobile money. Naye nga beebuuza lwaki wadde waliwo ebirungi bingi ebiri kukozesa ssente za mobile money, lwaki abantu tebettanidde ssente ze bayita eza digital eza mobile money? Ebimu ku byo bye bagambye nti lwakubanga abantu tebeesiga mobile money. Ekirala, oyinza okuba n'essente z'oku mobile money n'oyagala okugula obutungulu wali, gw'ogulako obutungulu n'agamba nedda nnyabo nze njagala ki za lupapula. So weesanga okuba nti n'ebintu by'osinga okugula abantu abasinga tebaagala za lupapula. Ne weesanga nga okuba n'essente z'oku mobile money tekikuyamba lwakubanga abasinga baagala za mpapula. Kati ne twebuuza nti kiki kye tulina okukola okulaba nti abantu batandika okwettanira ssente zino eza mobile money, lwakubanga birungi nnyo ebizirimu. Olina osobola okwewola ssente kasita obeera n'essente za mobile money. Bano bozitereka nabo babeera bamanyi nti noono Damali Sali buli week akozesa emitwalo 10 ziyita ku mobile money. Kitegeeza nti nosobola muwola emitwalo 2 ne mugamba alina ozisasula myezi 6. Kati wemba Damali Sali sikozesa mobile money teri asobola kumanya ekyo era tewali agenda kumpola ssente. Ebirala balina bingi nnyo bye bakozesa ku mobile money, basobola okuleeterako ebyamaguzi, ebyentambula, basobola okuwa ebintu by'osobola okukozesa mu by'obulimi. So bingi nnyo by'osubwa bw'obeera toli ku mobile money. Naye ng'ate nabanno balina okukola ekyamaanyi okulaba nti no naawe ali ku mobile money ate tekikukosa nnyo, emisoso gye bakuggyako si mingi, osobole omukozesa. era beeyamye nti no bagenda kusigala nga bakirowoozaako engeri okukendeeza emisoso gye bakuggyako abantu abasinga basobola okukozesa mobile money lwakubanga bwe tunatandika ensi ezisinza okukulaakulana zonna zigenze digital, sente gye zikozesa za digital, okanga kikuyamba mu by'okusuubula, mu by'okugula, kitambuza ebintu mangu. So okwejja mu bwavu tulina naffe okukola ekyo, naye nga bagambye nti no bo abayiiya ba tekinologiya ono ne gavumenti balina okukwataganira wamu because abayiiya bokka tebasobola kikola ate ne gavumenti yokka tesobola kikola, so balina okukwataganira wamu okulaba nti no bonna bakwataganira wamu okulaba nti n'abantu batandika okwettanira sente ze bayita eza digital oba eza mobile money. Mwebale nnyo.
Thank you very much. And now with that detailed summary, I want to add a lot to it. I'm going to request my dear panelists to go for a photo moment, but Damali will be retained here for a moment. Again, before they leave, like my brothers from Kenya called South Soul say, short and sweet. The panels are brief, straight to the point, and they are delivering the point. The impact we intend to create is being created. Because they always say you don't need a full day to make point. You have 5 minutes, Anthony has said everything. Whoever was here knows NCBA is the biggest bank, and it continues innovating. In the same space, team has used 5-6 minutes, and everyone knows that he's working on saving and loans products for his customers. So people on SafeBoard are excited on the new thing that is happening. Thank you very much. I'll ask my panelists to go outside for a photo moment. Damalisa will remain here briefly. Thank you. Yes, to those watching us on NBS, rather on BBS, very sorry about that. This is the FinTech Landscape Exhibition organized by High People and partners, Mojalop, Cross Lake Tech, Modasbox, and Level 1 Project. I'm going to take this opportunity to hand over to Wesley to take us through the next action.
Well, the next action is very simple. We want to make sure we get to lunch as early as possible, so this will really be quite a little bit quick. We're going to be awarding, giving certificates to all the participants, but most importantly also as well, those that actually went through the entire training, all right? Those that went through the training, so those will definitely be awarded as well. So we're going to do that real quick, chop, and I'll request Damali Sadi to come here so that we can award these amazing participants as well. Real quick. So I'll have, so when I read your name, I read the other, you pick it from Damali. I'll start with the Award of Excellence, 40 Days, 40 Fintechs, NCBA Bank, Uganda, please, Uganda Limited, please move forward and pick it. NCBA Bank, Uganda Limited. We'll have it handed over to you by Damali. Pegasus. Pegasus Technologies Limited. Who's taking the photos, please? Pegasus. Card Pesa. In the queue, please. Thank you. Raxio Data Center.
Kolo ogabanafe abali mu nteekateeka ey'okulaba engeri tekinologiya mu byensimbi gyagenze akyukakyukamu ate n'okutunulira wa gyalaga. Olunaku lwaleero wabaddewo bannaffe bangi abazze ne bakubaganya ebirowoozo naye nga naddala batunulidde ensonga eziwerako okuli ensonga y'okulaba ensuubulagana bw'eyinza okubeera naddala singa tukozesa tekinologiya ono era mu ngeri y'emu ne batunulira abo bannaffe abatunda ebintu wamu n'okugula era engeri gye bakozesaamu enteekateeka eno okwonnonga kw'ossa n'okusindika ensimbi okuva ku kifo ekimu okuzitwala ku kifo ekirala era mu ngeri y'emu batunulidde oba oliawo n'amateeka engeri gye gatunuliddemu enteekateeka eno naddala nga batunulira akiti egenda okuba nga etunulira ensimbi engeri gye ziva mu mukono ogumu ogenda mu mukono omulala nenga tukozesa enkola eno eya digito. Okusoomozebwa kwe kuli nti waliwo bantu baffe bangi abali mu bifo ewala eri oba oliawo intaneti nga tetuukayo bulungi oba oliawo era nga tebalina kukkiriza nti enkola eno esobola okuba nga ekozesebwa ate neeyamba. Tutunulidde nti gye bujja maaso eyo ensimbi zino enkalu ziyinza okukendeera naddala nga tezikozesebwa mu basinga obungi kuba amawanga mangi kati agagenze digito. Okusoomozebwa weekuli neera bagambye nti n'omukisa weeguli ogw'amaanyi naddala bannaffe abagenda mu maaso n'okuteekawo enteekateeka zino oba naddala mu kuteekawo enkola gy'oyinza okugamba nti babuildinze platforms ez'enjawulo ezisobola okukozesebwa mu nteekateeka eno. Terefayina nga bwe yeeyama okusigala nga ekolagana naawe naddala okutuusaako